Hello and welcome to another episode of Work 2.0, the podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Wells, and this is where we talk all things AI, money, the future of work. Today, I have with me Trisha Eck. She is Director of Innovation at freelancer.com. Welcome, Trisha.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to speak with you.
Yes, it absolutely is. And we're here today to talk about, obviously, Artemis 2, right? Artemis 2, I think we've just been so excited. The whole world has been thrilled and captivated by the crew, by just the humanity of it all. I don't think anyone's been too focused particularly on the science behind it. I'm sure NASA's going to be talking about it in the coming weeks and months. But I think for now, everyone's just been fascinated by the crew themselves. But there's another thing that's been stealing the spotlight, stealing the attention lately, not just the crew, but what have they been holding? Tell us more about it.
It's been so fun for me to watch all of the coverage of Artemis because whenever you see the astronauts, they're always like playing with this little ball. And this ball is the result of a competition that we ran on freelancer.com. So NASA came to us and they said, we want to inspire the Artemis generation and we want to get people around the world involved. Here's our idea. We always need to have a zero gravity indicator. So when all of the astronauts and everything is strapped down for launch, this is the only thing not strapped down, and it's going to float when we get to zero gravity. And that's the visual cue. You know, you have all of the dials and the things you can check, but it's like a real visual cue. We're floating now. We've kind of escaped gravity.
That's a fun way instead of using a dial or something.
Yeah, exactly. And the dial might go wrong. Like you can't deny what your eyes see. And so this zero gravity indicator was a competition globally. Thousands of people all around the world participated with their ideas to design the zero gravity indicator, the moon mascot. And the one that won is called Rise. And it was created by a second grader. So just an incredible achievement. And it wasn't just a kids competition. It was an adult competition too, but this one was just a very inspiring, very meaningful contribution, and it's been floating around.
The thing Rise has made headlines all by itself. Like I'm seeing Rise pop up in, when they were taking press calls in the Orion spacecraft when they landed, and then the humorous, the cute story about how was it Hansen, I think, or no, it wasn't Hansen, it was Commander Reed Wiseman, how he strapped it to, he didn't want to leave it behind in the spacecraft, so he took it with him and made sure it was strapped to him so he could take it out on the way back to Earth. I think that was so cute and incredible. Such a heartwarming story. I also thought what was super incredible and intriguing, NASA, they made their debut on social media on Threads on Saturday, and their first few posts were everyone was just like fanning over them and just so excited. But one of their posts, I'm going to read it here actually, which I thought was absolutely incredible. Give me a sec. My phone is playing up. NASA mentioned that there's been a lot of demand for the Rise plush toy, and they said, oh, here it is. They said, this is a public service announcement. NASA doesn't make merchandise, but we do work with many vendors to review and approve things. We've seen many requests for Artemis 2 items, including Rise plushies. So this is so cool, and our team is currently in the review process. It said because production takes 60+ days, it will be a little while before they're ready. Keep an eye on NASA exchange stores for authorized items. Did you expect that to happen for this demand?
Fantastic. Yeah, and this is, what I was going to say when you're talking about Commander Reed taking Rise out. It's a hot commodity. Everybody, so many people have contacted me and us too. We've asked NASA like, hey, can we have one? And it was created in the thermal blanket lab of NASA. So it's actually very specifically, the one that went into space is specifically made with materials that are safe for space flight. So it's extra special. Probably the ones that we're keeping here on Earth can be a little bit less intensive materials.
The technical details that don't have to be so strict. Yeah, of course. But you didn't expect it to gain the popularity that it did, did you?
You know what? I did think that people were going to want it. And
Yeah.
we would have manufactured them ourselves actually, and we offered to do so for NASA, but it's good that they're going to manufacture it and put it into their stores, and I will probably get one.
And why? Oh yeah, for sure, you need that. And why do you think it is that people are so fascinated and so drawn to this? What is it about Rise that you think appeals to people the most right now?
Rachel, the thing about our generation, the Artemis generation, this is the first time we've seen people go to the moon. My parents told me they watched the launch, they watched the landing, and it reminded them of being kids and watching those missions, the Apollo missions. And so for us, this is our time to experience the excitement of humanity exploring the cosmos. And Rise is an incredible symbol of that, because Rise is based on the picture taken during the Apollo missions of Earthrise over the moon. And so
It's beautiful, yes.
It's a moon with the Earth as its cap, which is just an echo of that image. And so it has this history baked in, but it also has the future baked in, because we're returning to the moon. It's such an exciting symbol.
Yeah, it's historic, and I think it's something that also, the kids of today, as well as today's generation, can pass down to their children, to the next generation who may not have seen Artemis 2 and say, look, here's a piece of history and present, history in the making that you can take with you. As we have Artemis 3, Artemis 4, right? But at least we can say we've had this piece of history with us. I think that's incredible. And it's taking a step back, thinking about freelancer.com. Your site is often associated with the likes of Upwork and Fiverr. For freelancer.com, what is it that makes freelancer.com different from other freelancer marketplaces?
First of all, we're the world's largest marketplace. So we are global. We're all over the world. We have over 80 million users, nearly 90 million now. And so that incredible international reach sets us apart for a lot of folks. And this is why over 10 years ago, NASA started working with us, because they wanted to do open innovation. They have a program that we work with called the Center of Excellence for Collaborative Innovation, which is,
I love that.
Yeah, which is getting NASA problems solved by people around the world who have the expertise to solve them. The other thing that really sets Freelancer apart is when people think of gig work, they might think, okay, you can build me an app, you can edit my book.
Yeah.
These kind of gigs. And Freelancer also works on the highest end technical problems like space flight, like genome
That's not your
editing.
typical freelance gig.
It's not your typical gig, that's right. But if you bring Freelancer, your hardest problem in any industry, because of our international network and the expertise we have in-house, I mean, my background's in physics, we're able to find the person who can solve that problem. And so let me give you another good example. On this Artemis mission, much less visible than Rise, was software that was tested by work done by a freelancer through freelancer.com. And so, yeah, NASA came to us and they said, we need to update this open source software that we're using to do automated testing that is going to check the software that's in the Orion spacecraft. Can you find this person? And we found a software engineer who's Norwegian, who was working in Japan on automotive software. And he was the guy who had that expertise that NASA needed. So it's a very needle in a haystack situation. It's an enormous success story for using gig work and freelance work to do this kind of space exploration.
So that kind of leads me to my next question when it comes to your center of excellence and solving those unique problems, which we're seeing, there's a stat that says that freelancers will make up more than 50% of the US workforce by 2027, and that's just in a year from now. So I can totally see how this is going to be a huge deal. But we're talking about freelancing, solving unique problems. We're not talking about your typical copywriting, email marketing, social media management. These are very unique skills. Walk me through, what's your process like? How do you identify that needle in a haystack? How do you identify that top talent? There's only a few people, obviously, that can solve that problem. There's tons of people who could do copywriting, but only a few people who could solve that very unique problem for a client like NASA. How do you identify those experts? What's your vetting process? Walk me through it. How would someone get picked?
Yeah, so I'm kind of like it's kind of like bounty hunter. You put a prize on a solution and we run a competition model. So NASA will bring us a problem and we go through an entire challenge design to make sure we get the problem right. And then we put this problem out in a competition format to the world and we say, here's what your solution has to have, here's the due date. And people in many walks, and especially we love seeing cross-industry solutions, a solution that comes from another industry that's able to come over and be translated to new work.
Yeah.
They give these ideas and then a panel of experts judges them. And so it's really simple to think about in the RISE concept. So this was a design competition. It has to fit within the small 6x6 size limit. You have to label the materials, label the colors, and then it's judged by a panel of experts, ending with the astronauts, the Artemis 2 astronauts. They chose that design.
Yeah.
And for technical problems, such as how do you refuel spacecraft in microgravity, we run the similar competition. We say, bring us your ideas, and then expert judges were going to look at it and see this is feasible, this is not feasible. And that's how we surface these top ideas. And sometimes there's a phase 2, create a prototype, a phase 3, independent testing of the prototype. And that allows us to surface the best in the world. And the people that participate, sometimes they're professionals working in the industry. Sometimes they're retired. You know, a retired engineer from MIT. And right? Okay, they made their money, they're done, but they're still interested in solving interesting problems. They don't want to work a 9 to 5, but for the good enough, crunchy enough, interesting enough problem, they'll get into it. Sometimes the people who participate are students who are looking to start their career. They want to have this accolade saying NASA awarded them as the best idea in this category.
Perfect for their portfolio.
Yeah. So all across, this is how we find the right people.
And so once that person is found, so you have there's no age limit or age, let's say, limitation, right? Because you have a second grader. Is there like, how young can you be?
Yeah, so typically freelancer.com, we do have age limits. So you have to be 18 and older. If you're a kid or a student, then you're going to have a parent or guardian or consult to actually submit it. And if there's a paid money prize, to receive the money prize. And that's for protection of people who are underage.
So once someone, like, let's say they're successful, how does it work? So do they just get paid for that project? Or is it just a matter of visibility? Or is it visibility as well as getting paid? And potentially, do they get future contracts as well?
Yes. So often we'll list a prize amount. So if you can figure out how do you improve our precipitation measurement devices, there's a prize pool of $300,000 and you'll receive a portion of the pool depending on how many winners there are. Right. And that money that you win, as opposed to a grant or a contract method, there's no strings attached. You don't have to do any more work. You've done the work, you get the money, enjoy your vacation. Or, you know, whatever you want to spend that money on. And sometimes if there's a phase 2, or if you're a startup working in that industry, you'll probably reinvest that money. You'll probably use it to drive your product forward, but you don't have to. And we have seen lots of great examples of, now I've come up with this idea, I won the prize, and we are moving forward to try to get this work into space flight. Or I received the prize for this and I actually received venture capital carry-on funding, a lot of great media, positive sentiment. So it can help position for, you know, you've been awarded by NASA as the best in class. That's positioning for you, but you get money too. Yeah.
Exactly. I think we were talking just before we started recording this podcast, and we were talking about one of the things I noted from freelancer.com is you had, I think it was a competition or something that you put out concerning a very, very unique gig, which is creating art with bricks. I've never seen that before. Like, you know, you've seen Lego, but this was so unique, very unique, and like sculptures and things that you're creating using bricks that are so like ridiculously cheap, but at the same time can yield so much profit, so that, you know, that your profit margin is like crazy. Tell me more about like the thought process behind that, how popular that is right now, or is there a growing trend for it, a growing demand for it, and how can a newbie like get into something like that?
What Freelancer is doing is we're seeing a trend where people want to start their own business. That's a huge trend in the market, and Freelancer is able to support many aspects of that. For example, on freelancer.com, you can get someone to build your website, you can get someone to do your branding, you can get someone to source your marketing. And so it really is this place where you can go to run your business and to get the work done that you don't have that expertise in-house, because you're just this one person who's an expert in building Lego bricks, for example. And so we're running this campaign, which is, okay, here's a big idea. Here's something that it's not overdone in the market yet. You have an option of starting a business if you need a business idea. And this is one of the ideas, like, okay, maybe you can do custom Lego brick creations and sell them online. Maybe your idea is these custom experience boxes. And so you're going to make a custom experience box for the morning after you've been out drinking too late with your friends, and you probably need some light and some snacks, and something, you're not going anywhere, or you went out with your friends and your friend drank too much, you send them one of these custom boxes. And so that's not a thing that's on the market. So it's just these ideas of how do you start, where do you start, and what you brought up to this Lego brick. It's just like, here's something you could do. It's not oversaturated yet. You can try to make a business for that.
I really love that, because I think people often go with what's safe, like they'll go with the natural. I keep talking about copywriting, email marketing, course creation. These are the popular ones, the easy ones, because everyone does it. So you feel like there's no risk. But the problem there is there's a lot of risk because it's saturated, right? Everyone's creating the latest course. Everyone's offering their services as a copywriter. Everyone's doing coaching or whatever. So, it does become saturated and harder to stand out. Whereas something like what you mentioned, a custom, experience box, after you've had a hangover, it's quite unique. Or a custom Lego brick art is something that is just hardly heard of. And I think what you guys are doing is incredible, because you're opening up a world of opportunity where people get creative and innovative and start having fun again. I think people lose a lot of that creativity and joy and fun in life when they start a 9 to 5, unfortunately, and they forget about just how creative they are. Final thing for me that I had to ask you is, so like how unique and wild do these challenges get? Like, what's your, okay, we have NASA, like the Rise Plush toy. Who would have thought of a zero gravity toy, right? Has there been any other like wild idea that you have like crowdsourced, found a freelancer to provide? Tell me about one of those experiences.
Rachel, so many. And to the point where sometimes the contest owner says, we don't think you're gonna do that. Like, we don't think you're gonna get it. It's not possible. We already have like the best version. And then we say, bet. Watch this. So,
okay.
In Freelancer, we're doing genome editing medicine, crowdsourcing on freelancer.com. It's sort of just a mind-blowing type of work that we're able to do, which is super cool. We do a lot of spaceflight work. So on this Artemis 2 mission and on future Artemis missions, we've done a lot that's going towards that. We've worked with the Center of Disease Control, looking at what are some information that we can find with the data, and we connected the Center of Disease Control with their data to top mathematicians, saying, okay, use the latest in network science methods that only the cutting edge research professors who are working on this, the rest of the world doesn't even know it exists, and see what you can find in this data and the journey and the what was it called? Like hazards and threats, human health hazards and threats, like what we can find using the data that we have there. I probably the genome editing is kind of the most, like, you never would have associated freelancer.com with genomic medicine. And it's important because 10% of people in the world have a rare disease, and it's rare because not that many other people have it. But if you count all of the rare diseases, actually there's a lot of people who are affected by this. And so if you can have custom genome editing medicine, and maybe your disease is caused by a single defect in your genome and like just a single piece of DNA. And if you can have a custom genome editor that goes and fixes that solves your heart
That's mind blowing.
Yeah, so that's what we're working on, and right now it's in independent lab testing. So we're helping to progress it. It's really exciting to be touching it at all.
I think it's especially exciting given the fact that, obviously, the news of the weekend, inflation spiked up to 3.3% compared to 2.4% in February. People are concerned about the cost of living, gas prices going up. What would be, as we close out this segment, what would be your advice to people who are currently working their 9 to 5? They're not getting paid what they feel they're not getting paid for what they're worth. What would be your advice to them so that they could just get out there and get creative and start making money from their skills? What would you tell them?
Oh my goodness, that's a that's a really hard question, and it's particularly hard because I actually love my 9 to 5.
Right.
So number one, my number one advice is, bring out your inner protagonist and experience what you're doing and realize that your work is not just work to get to eat. It's not just work that's going to pay your bills and buy you bread, but that it can also nourish you in other ways. So you're intellectually growing, you're challenging yourself, you're trying to do things better than you did it yesterday. I mean, that's my my top advice, which is just enjoy life where you're at to start, because if you don't already enjoy life where you're at, changing the scenery might not help you. There's some perspective of your own that you need. But then secondly, the way I do my career is I always try to work on interesting problems, and I try to choose work that is very interesting to me and engaging, and obviously I love being on the cutting edge of science. The other thing I would say, if you're working a 9 to 5 job and you have a question or a problem that you don't want to solve because you want to be spending your time thinking about, I don't know, your newest AI algorithm, and you don't want to be thinking about how do I build a network that supports this, then outsource that, and I would be really glad to help. Give me your toughest problem, and I'm going to find that niche person in the world that can solve it. I would love to help with that kind of thing.
You are the ultimate matchmaker, right?
Yeah, I am.
The world's toughest problems. I think that's what we should call you. Not directive innovation. You're like the innovation matchmaker.
Yeah, that's cute. That's really good.
Well, Tricia, it's been a pleasure having you on Work 2.0 today. I know today you're in between meeting NASA representatives today. I know you've got a packed week with traveling and everything, so it's been an honor having you on the show. And also, I'm definitely looking forward to receiving. Obviously, we're going to have some comments, I'm sure, from our audience. I'll be sure to pass the questions your way if there are any questions. I'll just direct them to you. For those of you who are thinking about your current role, thinking about the future of work and where you fit into it all, don't worry. This is what Work 2.0, the podcast, is all about. We're here to teach you and show you exactly how the things that you're seeing day to day in the news directly apply to your work and what you can do about it. So I will see you in next week's episode of Work 2.0, the podcast.